Welcome back to Practice Underwater. And we are here with part 2 with our interview with Elizabeth. And, for anyone that didn't listen to part 1, I'm going to do the same spiel I do every time. Go back and listen to part 1. And let's just say you listened to it, or let's just say you ignored my instructions. Either way, I'm going to give you a little recap and a reminder. So Elizabeth is a doc who's in our mastermind program and our coaching program. And she is working with Lori. And one of the things that she wrestled a lot early in ownership. So she's 8 full months into ownership now. She bought a practice with 6 operatories and has an ample amount of patients, like 3,000 patients, more than she needs. Or more than she has capacity for, I'll put it that way. Then, she's kind of been wrestling with this. Do I go with a group practice? Do I go solo? Do I cut insurance? Do I go fee for service? Do I, she's kind of like debating about this whole thing. And so we spent a lot of our time, because she has a real estate dilemma where she's in this building that is 6 operatories, but it's on the 2nd floor and there's no elevator, and she has an older patient base. And so the stairs and the accessibility is a challenge. She does not like the building. So she's not happy with her real estate. I wanted to spend the first half of the episode. And the other piece is there is this ideal built out dental, like all she would need to do is move equipment and some minor finishing, and she could get up and running with a better ground floor, more accessible 6 operatory practice. And so, kind of the first thing that I wanted to assess in part 1 was like, okay, is this a group practice or is this a solo office? And so, we went through the exercise and I asked all the critical questions and I poked the holes, and we kind of arrived at the conclusion that I think that a group practice is the best thing. And there was something she said, Elizabeth talked about this in the last episode, where she talked about how she was like, I just get excited with the group practice idea. Like, I like the idea of having an empowered office manager. I like the idea of building up an associate. And I kind of poked holes like, well, how about the worst case scenario where you have a higher practice, you're managing a more complex operation, you have the flexibility that she wants because she's a mom and she wants to be there for school. But, what if you have maybe less of an income? And I was very relieved to hear that, it seems like Elizabeth is good with the trade-off. And I think that is, that is, from my perspective, one of the most important things. And so we kind of established that. And now we're like, okay, we understand that we're wanting a group practice long-term. An ideal number of operatories is 8. And, we have 6 at the moment. We can add 2 in our current space. We have this building that can have 6. And then there's going to be like kind of a longer term hope that one of the tenants next door doesn't renew their lease and we can take over an adjacent space in 2.5 years, something like that. And then there's the other option of finding a different real estate opportunity. So now, Elizabeth, welcome back to part 2. You kind of left us on a cliffhanger when we were doing our halftime break, where you said that there's some stuff with the lease that should kind of be noted. So maybe why don't you start by just introducing anything that we need to know to kind of handle this next conversation about what to do with the real estate?
Yeah. So the real estate's a logistical nightmare, but it was brought to my attention. And again, it's so close to the practice and I've always loved the building. So my lease in my current location is up at the end of 2028. So, a little over a year and a half, or what was it, 2.5 from now. The new location, the space that we're going into would be at the end of the year, start of next year. So beginning of 2027 is when we'd have access to that space. So there would be an overlap there, from 2027 to 2029, where we would have both spaces that we'd be paying on. And I'm trying to do the gymnastics to use both spaces without losing culture or confusing patients. But there's a overlap there. And then the space opening up next door wouldn't be until 2029, 2030, worst case scenario. Unless, we got there and they said, we've been trying to get out of this. This is a good way out for us, but that's unlikely.
Yeah, so I guess help me understand, because I actually think your worst case scenario is like a best case scenario. So this space that you're going to, that is a fully built out 6 operatories that has a tenant whose lease expires, how do we know that they're going to want to move or not renew their lease?
So in exploring buying the building, we got kind of the rundown on that, and they are they're leaving at 2029. They're done with their lease. They're not renewing it. They're in the process of leaving. So
And what type of business is this?
it's a wellness, like injectables and aesthetics. And
And why are they leaving?
I don't know. I don't know. We haven't gotten that far because there's no, like offer on the table or anything. So we don't have all of the details.
So you know for sure that they're leaving.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess let's start with the most obvious question, which is okay. And by the way, like I'm gonna come back to some things that you said, like using two spaces simultaneously,
Yeah.
or like
You might. Yeah.
I'm gonna come in there and we're gonna have some conversations about that. But
Yeah.
let's start with talking about the new space. How do you feel about waiting until 2030 potentially to bring on an associate in the practice?
It's not my favorite.
Yeah, why not?
I don't know. I'm worried we're going to lose patients over that time that we have right now because we're not getting them in quick enough.
Yeah.
So there's going to be attrition there. And then you mix that in with a relocation and where there's going to be more attrition there. And then we're just going to be trying to build things back up. And also, it's just kind of, it's a little bit of a grind to be checking 3 hygiene and doing all the admin and doing 2 columns of production. It's just, I don't know. I could do it. I could do it for another 3.5 years, but I'd rather get somebody sooner than that. But I could
Okay.
do it.
I think that in this conversation, right, it's the easiest to start to disvalidate options, right? So
Mhm.
obviously, your existing space sounds ideal for a few reasons. One, you can add 2 operatories right away without doing any massive construction. You can bring in the associate in the next
Right.
year, but you don't like the building, and there's the no elevator for pay. By the way, like how can they get away with that from a coding perspective?
I don't know. The landlord said it was, I think it's grandfathered in. Basically, he said they're not getting an elevator. I asked him to consider a chairlift, which he said he'd consider. But he said they don't need an elevator and he's not going to put one in.
Yeah, a chairlift would be great, right? You could just have
Yeah.
the patient sit in the chair and get taken up the stairs.
Mhm.
But like, let's just say you got a chairlift.
Mhm.
How do you feel about staying in your building and adding the 2 easy ops and getting the associate sooner than later?
I'm good with that. That was the initial plan that I had been thinking of. And then when the lease is up in at the end of 2028, looking for a place to buy then. That makes the most sense to me. That seems the easiest. My area is a little bit landlocked. So when the already plumbed building came into play, that's right down the street. That just felt like a good opportunity. But ideally, we would just add the ops and then relocate down the road.
Okay, so I'm interested to see, like, so with lease negotiation, there's a lot of different avenues that you can go down. For example, right? So you're saying that this built out dental space is not available until the beginning of 2027. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, so we would buy the building over the summer and then be able to move into the space at the end of the year or the beginning of next year.
So you would own the building.
Yeah.
And so there's currently a tenant there through the end of this year.
Yes.
So let me tell you an option, and this is an option that may not be realistic, but let me
Mhm.
tell you what sounds ideal. Have you explored 12 operatories?
No, haven't explored it. I thought maybe 8 to 10, but 12. Okay, yeah, tell me more about 12.
So if you go to the group practice, the rule of 4, right? So 4, 8, 12.
Mhm.
So if you get to 12, what that allows you to do is that allows you to have 3 doctors there on any given day. So you have 2 full-timers plus
Mhm.
yourself on the school schedule, I'll call it.
Right.
Um, and so to me, I mean, the wellness suite is like probably around 1,200 at least square feet, correct?
Just over 2,100 square feet.
Bingo was their name-o, right? So it's like if you think about adding 2,100 square feet to a 6 operatory practice, adding 2 operatories in 2,100 square feet is about the least efficient way you could ever do that project.
Oh, sorry. So the 6 ops that are already plumbed are in the 2,100 square feet.
And then what is the wellness?
The additional space is just over 1,000 square feet.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I would think 10 is like somewhat of a limit there on what you could get at that, just based on kind of the rough square footage amount. And I would say like 2,100 square feet with 6 operatories is like kind of right in the middle of efficient and inefficient.
Mhm.
It's not wildly inefficient, but it's also not efficiently laid out. Here's the thing, like, um, Why is the dentist leaving? Do they already have a space up and running?
The dentist moved out years ago and then passed it so after the dentist moved out, the wellness clinic came in. But the dentist moved years ago, miles up the road for a bigger, I think 14 ops.
Wait, wait. So the wellness person is in the dental office at the moment,
Yes.
but who's the other suite, the 1,000? I thought that was the wellness person too.
They're aesthetics as well, but it's more of a salon aesthetics thing.
So it's the same business that has two suites?
No, two separate businesses. So the wellness where the dental is will be out at the end of the year. The
Okay.
one next door, which is more of a salon, will be out 2029 or 2030.
Okay.
I know
And
there's a lot of logistics.
do you think you could expedite the salon to get them out faster?
So talking with the realtor, yeah, he said it's an option. One, we don't know where they stand right now, if they're doing well or not with their, business, if they want to stay there. And two, he said you can, throw money at it and expedite things. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but that would be great. I just don't know if we're going to know any of that for sure without.
Do you have an idea of how much it would cost for you to add the two operatories to your existing space?
Yeah, it'd be just over 100,000
In construction or in construction and equipment?
construction and equipment.
Okay, and how do you feel about your existing equipment? If you were to move to a new facility, would you bring your equipment with you, or do you feel like it's like gotta go?
I'd take it, but it eventually has to go.
Okay,
It's old, but I'd get some more mileage out of it.
so then what is the construction cost to add the two operatories, not the equipment costs?
The construction cost is Um, about 43,000.
Okay, so you'll be making a $43,000 investment, and that investment potentially. So here's kind of the thing I'm thinking through. Potentially, it would make sense for you to buy the building and try to get the salon tenant out sooner,
Mhm.
then do a construction project to expand the space to be 10, 8, 9 ops, somewhere in that space,
Mhm.
and then move your practice. So, like, by the time, think about it, if you take over the space in 2027, for
Uh-huh.
example,
Yes.
and you get the salon tenant out, let's just say a year or two early, right?
Mm.
You could potentially you're essentially asking the question of how many years am I using the two extra operatories in my existing space, and what's the return on investment of that, bringing in an associate sooner,
Right.
and then the only cost that you would not recuperate is the construction cost, the equipment, that type of thing you're transferring. So I guess what are your thoughts on that kind of configuration where you do some construction in your existing space, get an associate, and then that gives you some patience to have this building secured and then eventually get the salon tenant out and expand the space, and then when it's an ideal time you move.
Yeah, I like that idea. My biggest concern would be I'm not sure if the bank will give me enough to buy the building and then also do construction where we're at currently. I think that might be a pinch point for them.
Okay. And I think this all goes down to how unsustainable is your current building?
What do you mean by unsustainable? Like, we could be there for years. It would be okay.
Do you think you can get any assurance on this chairlift?
I think if it came down to us saying we would be done at the end of the lease, or he could add a chairlift, but then we still might be done at the end of the lease. I don't know. I could maybe get assurance, but
Well,
yeah.
I mean, if you're putting in $43,000 to add two operatories, how much would
Mhm.
a chairlift cost for
I
you
have
to do
no
it yourself?
I have no idea.
Okay. Are you the only tenant on the second floor?
No, there's one other tenant, but they
Okay.
don't have patients. They're just,
Like a finance or
employees.
something?
Yeah.
Look, I don't love the new building, and let me explain why. So one, you'd have to purchase the building, very capital intensive. But
Right.
obviously you own real estate, so there's it's a double-edged sword. You get an asset, you also it's capital intensive.
Yeah.
Then you have these like conflicting timelines, right? You have the space opening up at the beginning of 2027, but then you have 2029, 2030 when the other half opens up. And it's not like you're sitting in a place that is materially worse than where you, like, let's just say you bought the building,
Mhm.
you kicked out the salon, gave them like 50 grand or something to kick them out,
Yeah.
then you expanded it, you're not getting anything more than a two-doctor practice in that configuration.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
And so you say, okay, well, what's the benefit? The benefit is the stairs. Like, that's the very clear benefit of that option from the other option. And then you say, okay, well, how big of a deal are the stairs? And obviously the old building, but like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like patients are somewhat used to that, right? They've been coming here for so many years. Like, the building bothers you, but does it really bother them? I'd kind of question that.
Yeah.
And so I think the more we talk about this, the more I like your existing space,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the less I like. It's like, how much complexity do we need to take on to really get to, and then we haven't even talked about the third option, but are there any other existing spaces or any other existing opportunities that you think would be interesting, to potentially look at outside of this?
I think we'd have to just reevaluate closer to when the lease is up so there's less crazy logistics because it would be complex right now to do this property. It would be complex to make it work.
Yeah.
I think we would need to look closer to the end of 2028 when we'd be out. You saying 12 ops makes me think, well, then at that point, do we look for a space that can support 12 ops?
Yeah.
So that's an option for us, which is, I think, seems very appealing to me.
Can I give you a thought?
Yeah, please.
Like, let's just say you stay in your space till 2028.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's just say you signed a 3-year extension
Mm-hmm.
or a 2-year extension, or you negotiated a 1-year extension. You potentially put yourself in the territory of being able to do a ground up construction, because those timelines are really long,
Yeah.
but they're more ideal. So it's like you can get a pad site at the corner of Main and Main. You
Mm-hmm.
can like design an ideal everything.
Yeah.
You don't have existing tenants with different timelines. And so I think that that's an option. I also think the buying a building and retrofitting it is an option, or renting a building. But I think that, like, if you're only going to have one practice, and I say only going to have, but I'm saying, like, if your intention is to have one practice, it does make sense to own the real estate and the practice together, right? It makes sense to get two significant net worth assets as a result of this.
Right.
And so I think that maybe thinking about your existing space as a longer term option for you,
Mm-hmm.
um, but not forever, right? So it's like, maybe we're going to be here for more than till the end of 2028, and maybe I go to 12 operatories and I'm in here in 8, and then we have this, we've heard it in the mastermind. If you listen to some of the past calls, I don't think we've talked about it on one of the calls you've been on, but like, we have this bursting at the seams concept. So it's like,
Right.
we want to be bursting. I mean, you're bursting at the seams with 8 operatories and 2 dentists, honestly, with
Yeah.
the number of patients you have. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not like you have this problem, but like, to get fully at capacity with 8 operatories and 2 dentists and 4 hygienists then allows you to go to a 12 operatory facility and kind of spill into it. And so I think that maybe that's the thought process. I like that you grabbed onto 12 and you like 12. I like 12 too. And the reason I like 12 is because, um, if you are wanting to build this for the idea of associate turnover, having 2 associates kind of de-risks you from the turnover as much, because they're likely not going to both turn over at the same time. So it just makes the practice a little bit more resistant to that type of thing.
Yeah, sure.
And I feel like there's definitely ample patience. I mean, you have all the patience you need.
Yeah.
So it's very much an option. And so I would say that, like, my initial thought is, I kind of like the idea of you settling it. I mean, I can't imagine a chairlift is more than like $3,000, right? I mean,
I really don't know. I really don't know.
I'm going to like, you
It
know,
can't be that much. And you think that the landlord would just let me add that to his building because I'm paying for it, so it's advantageous to him.
yeah. And I don't think you jump on that option on first pass. But like, if you have patients who are telling you that, like, you want to like add a chairlift to his practice, like,
Mhm.
I want to see, like, I'm just gonna ask AI real quick, like, how much does a chairlift cost? I mean, I don't think it's like we're talking about a crazy amount of money here. And I mean, if you're putting $43,000 to add to operatories, like, if you have patients complaining about this, let's get a quick answer. But I mean, what are your thoughts in general on this kind of approach that I'm advocating for, which is like, the existing space doesn't seem broken enough. The new one that you're referring to has kind of a handful of problems.
Mhm.
And then, is this a curved or multi-landing staircase, or is it a straight staircase?
It is curved.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, I'm kind of surprised. The price is more than I would have expected.
How much is it?
15 to $25,000.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah. So I would not, out of the goodness of my heart, put that in there.
Yeah.
I would, but like, isn't there like a requirement from the landlord to be in code, or you think they're grandfathered in? They don't have to be accessible. Like,
Yeah, I think they're grandfathered in.
man,
I think they are.
that's frustrating.
It is.
Yeah. So I don't know.
So, say we're there until the end of 2028. We have option to stay longer if we want to, but say 2028, we feel like we're bursting at the seams, something becomes available at that time. We maybe, like you said, renew for a year or so or more as we do the new build. Do you think the cost of adding the 2 extra ops, do you think it outweighs it? Like we pass that point of it being profitable
Yeah.
and associate pretty quickly? Where do you think that falls?
That's a great question, and I'm happy you asked it. So I think there's 2 points here that we've discussed that I think are worth going back to. One is this idea of dead rent. So it's not directly your question, but I'm just going to talk about it because it's somewhat related. I think a 6 to 12 month period where you're carrying 2 leases is not the worst thing in the world,
Okay.
because there's going to be a lot of patients who naturally go to the old space, and likely a dental business will backfill your space, right?
Right.
So if you have a dental practice and then you're going to leave, likely a dental practice will come in, and so having a 6 month period, especially where it's like one recall cycle through to everyone to accidentally goes to the other office to have a sign on the door that says like, hey, go to our new practice, that's not the worst thing in the world. Like it's going to help you retain patients. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
So I think that you've brought up this concept of like timing your lease expiring perfectly with like 1 month overlap so that you can like save rent. And I'm just trying to say like a 6 month or even a 12 month overlap isn't the worst thing. Now to your actual question, you know, I look at this as a cash on cash return. So if your cost is $43,000 to add the associate, you say, okay, well, what is my return on that? I would think an 18 month to 2 year period of using the extra operatories would be kind of the return on investment, right? So it's like,
Right.
and then there's the intangible value, which is like not having your patient base not serviced, having the ability to add more hygiene days, having the ability to retain more of your patients and have them not go elsewhere because you don't have availability, right? So there's all these intangible benefits, but I think tangible benefits like is I'm spending 43,000. I need to make that back for that to be a good idea. I would think you got to be in the space for 18 months to 24 months with 2 doctors,
Okay.
for that to start to pencil.
Sure. And are you not including equipment costs because it comes with you? So,
Yeah, exactly. I think equipment costs will migrate. So I'm the only added cost is the cost of the equipment,
yeah.
like moving the equipment, which isn't terribly expensive.
Okay. Okay. The 6 to 12 months of overlapping lease is a really good point because our patients do say, I was coming here 30 years ago when it was another doc. So it'd be good to have that
Yeah.
period of
You
it
want the
not
sign on the door that
time
says
period.
like go to this address, you're at the wrong place. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you recondition everybody to go there. And then another dentist will take over, and hopefully there's not so many gifts of patients walking in.
Yeah. That's an excellent point.
Yeah, because if you think about it, right, the value of a patient per year is around $1,000 for a practice like yours.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't take many patients each year for that justify the rent.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. I'm convinced.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm convinced.
So walk me through what you're convinced of.
I'm convinced on a group practice, 2 docs, who knows, maybe 3 down the line if we're feeling it. I'm convinced that we stay in this location because I was originally okay staying there for a while until this like shiny object on the street became available. Convinced to stay there for a little bit, add the 2 ops, get an associate on board, and then look for opportunities in the future for real estate purchase.
Yeah, and like maybe let's talk about the shiny object. Is it really that shiny?
It's that it's so close on the same street and another dentist is gonna go in there and it's already built out and it's so pretty. It is. but I can get over that. I can
But
be sensible.
it's a shiny
It's small.
object.
It's small.
I think okay. It's a shiny problem object.
It is.
It's
It
shiny, but it's also like it comes with a pain, right? There's
is.
a PIA that comes with this. It's like
Definitely.
I have these different leases, I have this tenant, I have these mismatched timelines. Like I have to the
Definitely.
salon, I have like I don't know. I mean, I the more I hear about it, the less I like it because of the differing timelines. Like
Yeah.
if they came to you and they said, "Look, we can get both of these tenants matched up at the same time or in because you're essentially you can get to a group practice. You have a very real point here that you have 3,000 patients, and the longer you wait to get to a group practice, the more attrition you have. And
Right.
so you have this like decaying patient base, so to speak, because you don't have the availability to properly service them.
Yeah.
And so there's a bit of a sense of urgency to like preserve your patient base to get to that group practice, to get to the proper number of hygienists and providers for the number of patients you have. And so when you factor that in, the smaller space, it's like, yeah, you go to a nicer facility, but you're going to like lose people because it's going to be 3 to 5 years before you can get to the proper number of providers and patients and operatories and hygienists. And so I think that, pick your problems. I think you have tolerable problems in your current space.
Yeah. Nope. This is what I needed to hear. This is
How
good.
often do patients complain about the stairs and say they can't come back?
Uh, I mean, the patient base is older. It is.
Is it like every day, multiple people a day?
No, it's not. No, it's not. People just, scoot up and somehow get their walkers up. And I mean, it's interesting, but people are doing it. Practice has been around for a long time that way. I'd like to not do it forever, but we can do it for a while.
Yeah, and maybe you tell them that. It's like, "You know what? I have plans to make this different." I mean, but like is your patient base like are you living and dying off of that patient that barely can get up the stairs, or is it like one of those like, cuz like sometimes they're not your ideal patient.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Okay, so maybe walk me through the conclusion that you have and kind of the thought process you're going to. So I do you have a sense of urgency to add those two ops? If I were you, I would.
No, I do. I've been in talk with I've already had contractors come out and quote it and talked with the equipment specialist and gotten things going. So we were looking to be done with that around the end of July, optimistically, which is when we would be looking to bring on an associate. So
Excellent.
hopefully by the end of the summer.
Yeah, that's exciting. All right.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is.
Great.
It is.
So, takeaways from our conversation part 1 and part 2.
Okay, great question. Part one, group practice.
Yeah.
You saying 12 ops, I really like that opportunity down the road. That is exciting to me, for sure. Part two is just exactly what I needed to hear, honestly. I needed someone to say, stop doing the mental gymnastics. It's not worth it. There'll be something that'll come up down the line that'll make more sense, which is, what I had been thinking, but what I needed to hear to solidify that we should stay put. I like the new real estate building, but I can give it up for something that'll be better in the long run for us.
Well, and then the other thing about the new real estate building is you can't get 12 ops in there,
Yeah,
right?
you can,
The
no.
3,100 square feet between the existing space and the salon, like there's just not enough room. So
Yeah.
I think that you're kind of hopefully leaving with the clarity of I want a group practice.
Mhm.
It's worth it for me to build out the 2 operatories in my existing space, even though it has this accessibility challenge and it's an older building.
Yeah.
And then maybe the ideal space that I look for next is a 12 operatory space, right? I like that you grabbed onto that because the mega group is where you start to make that trade in the right way, where it's like I can have the school schedule and I can have the income. Like it's like all of a sudden, once you get that third doctor, um, the math works out a little bit better
Yeah.
where your income is higher and there's more net worth and it's like the math starts to really start to be attractive. And so I think that you very much have like we always say the biggest challenge to get to a mega group is 3,000 patients. And it's like you have
Okay.
that like so the opportunity is there for you if you choose to
Yeah.
take it. And so I think maybe thinking about this as like your path to the mega group I think is like maybe hopefully one of the bigger things that comes out of this that you start to really like get excited about as more time passes from when we recorded the episode.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think that also is shocking to myself today that when you said 12 ops, that was something that I mean, yeah, I feel really good about that, actually. I think that's a good direction for us to head.
Well, and at the end of part one, there was something you said that was quite interesting, where you were talking about, you're like, well, I got very excited at the idea of a group. Like,
Yeah,
that excitement is um intangible, it's not rational, and it's also something that you need to consider when making decisions, right? Because you
yeah,
have to be invigorated by what you're doing day in and day out. And so I think that having that ability to be excited about what you're doing is like really important. And so I think I feel very clear on your direction, right? It's group,
mhm,
and then it's potentially move for a mega group, and it's get your two operatories in place, and fight with the landlord on the accessibility.
yeah. Sounds good, works for me.
All right, well, thanks for coming on and
No, thank
sharing
you.
your story.
I appreciate it.
And I think that, like, there's always something to learn in these different situations. And I think that for a lot of, it's like very common, right? The shared practices methodology of growing your practice through your hygiene pool is very operatories and hygienist and team dependent, right? It's like a very predictable but very like linear, like more operatories, more hygienists, more patients. It's like kind of how we grow. And
Right.
so inevitably there's a lot of people moving facilities because the practice you purchased is not in the facility that you would like to be in long term. So I hope for a lot of people listening, this was very applicable, and gave them food for thought as well as we kind of worked through Elizabeth's situation. So thanks for coming on, Elizabeth. Really appreciate it. And I think that this was, for our audience, a very informative episode.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I'll see you guys on another episode of Practice Underwater.
Resonate.